I decided to run for mayor of Oakland to try to inject a working class socialist voice into the mayor's race here. However, the forums that are organized, typically such as this one, are done in such a way as to make them little more than beauty pageants. This has been, among other things, a learning experience for me, and I'm starting to understand exactly what they're doing. And if you watch it till the very end, or watch the very end of it, you'll see how I have figured out how to flip the script on them a little bit.
The League of Women Voters Oakland is proud to present this program in partnership with UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital Oakland.
Here's the first question.
People are distrustful of government at all levels. What would you do to restore trust and faith in public office officials and in the power of city government to deliver services and improve quality of life?
A typical answer.
At the time so I have an accountable Oakland plan to clear up the confusion and let the mayor be directly accountable for running the city like other major cities are. That includes line item veto as well as legislative veto for the mayor.
There are no technical fixes or fiddling around with this or that way of electing people that will change this. The reason that people are distrustful of government at all levels is that in an era when workers have increasingly come under economic attack by the corporations, all the political candidates represent big business. And you can see that here in Oakland, that they all represent the real estate speculators who are massively gentrifying Oakland. So what needs to be done is we need working class candidates such as myself, and we need a working class political party that will actually help workers organize and represent workers at all levels. That is the only way. That the distrust is legitimate because the government represents big business, and we need working class representatives to change that. Compare that with the racist anti-Semite Peter Luke.
Have the new police chief issue concealed carry permits to the rest of the populace for $50 for a lifetime.
Coltrane candidate Ignacio de la Fuente.
I kind of set up a reputation of being a person that really want to provide access.
Then Mr. Taylor, followed by Ms. Dow.
Something I've successfully put in place in large corporations and nonprofits here in the Bay Area and across the globe. By the end of my first quarter in office, every department will publish its first quarterly dashboard.
I am Council President Pro Tem Sheng Tao. Absolutely, we must rebuild trust and faith in government through working in and investing directly into community.
Public safety is an issue throughout the city. What plans do you have to address this?
Greg Hodge.
We're going to craft a comprehensive approach that reimagines public safety. We make us safe.
Sheng Tao.
Work with the police chief, and not just that, but the city administrator to bring back to make sure we fill the vacancies in OPD, which we have already funded 732 positions that we passed the 5th, 6th, and 7th Police Academy.
My reply. Well, I'm not the vote for me and I'll set you free candidate. We have to recognize that violence and crime are integrally linked together, and they flow from two things. First is poverty. And I am the only candidate that calls for a $28 an hour minimum wage, which is what you need to survive in Oakland. Second, we also have to recognize that we live in a very violent society, and that violence was enormously intensified by the MAGA Republicans, some of whom are candidates here tonight. And the only way to reverse that is to build a working class movement, build working class solidarity, such as what happened in the 1946 general strike when crime disappeared. We need democratically elected and publicly financed committees of public safety. The only alternative is what many other people call for, in effect, a cop on every corner. In other words, Fortress Oakland and Fortress America. We see that's the way that a lot of the world is going, and it's a complete disaster.
What is your position on city funding for the proposed Oakland A's stadium at Howard Terminal?
Seneca Scott.
My position on city funding for the proposed Howard Terminal is that we need to be cautious about using any money that needs to be earmarked for public safety in order to get that deal done. And we need to not be pressured into spending more than we need to get that deal done. At the same time, we need to also make sure that we do everything we can to keep the A's in Oakland.
I'm the only candidate who's making an issue of that multi-billion-dollar privatizing, job-killing, budget-busting boondoggle, the Howard Street terminal. The A's stadium is just a small part of, it's about 1/12 of that entire project, which is going to be a financial millstone around the necks of the city of Oakland. Those who hide behind, oh, I call for community benefits, are really just perfuming a turd. There are no community benefits. And not only should Oakland not be financing that whole project, not with one red cent, we should stop it dead in its tracks. The owner of the A's, who is a massive gentrifier and a real estate developer, will become a major political force in Oakland, and he is also leading the charge for privatizing of public schools. So I'm the only one who's campaigned against it for years, and I think that it needs to be stopped. We cannot continue to be run by the real estate developers here in Oakland.
Health disparities that impact many children as well as adults in Oakland are driven by social and economic inequities rooted in systemic racism. How will you work to address the social determinants of health, such as housing, family support, and economic opportunity?
Alyssa Victory.
I'm running on a red, black, and green New Deal that is climate policy with an equity lens, knowing that several of our communities have been harmed already, have already less life expectancy or higher risk of health issues over their lifetime. And we have to repair that harm, not just build for climate resilience and for healthier communities.
Again, any candidate who implies that they can solve this massive health crisis for people is either naive or is hoping that people that are listening are naive. We have to recognize that the health crisis that exists in Oakland and exists nationwide flows from two principal sources. The first is this whole crazy idea, well, it's not crazy if you're a multi-billionaire, this crazy idea that health care should be for profit rather than a service just like the fire department. So we need to get rid of health care for profit and establish a true national health plan. The second is we have to, is directly related to global warming, because as the sea levels rise, for instance, in West Oakland, it's going to push a whole lot of toxins under the soil up to the surface, and it will create a massive health crisis in West Oakland. And so what we need, once again, not anybody up to President Biden can solve the problem for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Resolve this problem.
Ms.
I
Tao.
was the only candidate that the pro-capitalist League of Women Voters did not allow to finish their sentence when they got to the end of their allotted time. You're going to see in this next question how the League of Women Voters essentially takes the pro-corporate position. They are far from neutral.
What management or executive experience have you had that will inform how you hold the city administrator accountable to produce measurable outcomes and recruit for positions of city administrator and department heads?
The answers were somewhat predictable, so we then went on to the next question.
So this question is, if you are not elected, what would you do to try to help work on ideas or issues that are important to you?
I'll continue to be a union counsel and a union member working to get our first contract at my current workplace. I'll continue to be elected to our Democratic Party for this assembly district as a delegate, where I've been registering voters, helping to expand our democracy and even
Well, I would flip the question around and say, what would I do differently if I am elected? And my answer is, I wouldn't do anything differently from what I am doing and from what I've done all my adult life. And what I've done all my adult life, and in fact, from down to my teenage years, when I was active in the civil rights movement, is help working class youth and workers organize to fight for themselves. And that would be the purpose of being a mayor, is to use that position to do exactly that. And included in that, or in that organizing, is helping people to have a more deep understanding of the true nature of the problems that we are confronting. and an understanding that our problems are not just here in Oakland. They're not just here in the United States. They are international problems. And they stem from the disastrous degeneration of our system itself, which we have to name that system. It's capitalism.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Scott, Mr. Much. Thank you. So now it is time for closing statements.
This is where matters got a little bit more contentious, as you will see. First of all, I oppose trickle-down economics at the national or the municipal level. I urge voters to check out the candidate's record and current position on the gentrifying Howard Street Terminal project, keeping in mind that community benefits is just perfuming a turd. We need a program and strategy to reverse global warming at the national level. We also need a program and strategy to prevent the fascist Republican Party from regaining power in 2024. Those threats do not simply exist thousands of miles away. We have two candidates here, one of whom is a MAGAist, anti-Semite, and a racist. He won't talk about it openly, but his emails say it. We have another candidate for whom the coal trains have kicked in $100,000. Voters have a right to know that the first candidate is Peter Liu, and the second is...
Excuse me, we don't talk about other candidates that way, please.
I am the only candidate. It's ridiculous. Voters have a right to know who these candidates really are. Unfortunately for the pro-corporate, pro-capitalist League of Women voters, I had done my own recording. So here is the final part of my statement, which the League of Women voters had cut off. Voters have a right to know that the first candidate is Peter Liu, and the second is Ignacio de la Fuente.
Excuse me, we don't talk about other candidates that way, please.
I am the only candidate who hides nothing, because I am not the vote for me and I'll set you free candidate. I am the working class socialist candidate.
Mr. Scott.